Listen carefully, because this message did not arrive by coincidence. There is a reason your heart was drawn here today, and before you scroll away, understand that something has quietly shifted behind the scenes. Someone unexpectedly spoke a truth your soulmate never expected to hear, and in that single moment, everything you tried to explain suddenly began making sense to them. For so long, they convinced themselves that your words were simply emotions, assumptions, or misunderstandings they could easily dismiss. They believed their own version of the story because it felt easier than questioning what they had chosen to believe. But life has a remarkable way of revealing the truth when the timing is right. Recently, through an unexpected conversation, a surprising observation, or a moment they never saw coming, someone unknowingly confirmed the very thing you had been trying to tell them all along. It wasn't planned. It wasn't forced. It simply happened, and the impact has been impossible for them to ignore. Since that moment, a quiet unrest has settled deep within their heart. Thoughts they once buried have returned with surprising clarity, and memories they believed no longer mattered now refuse to leave their mind. The confidence they once carried has begun to crumble under the weight of this unexpected confirmation, because deep inside, they are beginning to wonder if they misunderstood you from the very beginning. And what troubles them the most is not discovering the truth itself, but realizing how long you carried that truth alone while they failed to truly listen. There is a growing regret inside them that cannot be silenced, because every new realization points back to the same painful conclusion. You were never trying to deceive them. You were trying to help them understand something their heart simply wasn't ready to accept. Now they find themselves standing at the edge of an emotional awakening they never anticipated, questioning old beliefs, replaying forgotten moments, and asking themselves one difficult question they can no longer avoid. What if you were telling the truth all along? That single question has become the beginning of a journey they never expected to take. And what they discover next has the power to change everything they thought they knew about you, about themselves, and about the connection that still quietly lives within their heart. Since that unexpected confirmation entered their life, something inside your soulmate has refused to return to the way it was before. They tried convincing themselves it was only a passing thought, only a coincidence that didn't deserve much attention. But every attempt to move on only brought them back to the same uncomfortable realization. The words they once ignored now echo differently in their mind. The explanations you offered, the emotions you tried to express, and the quiet moments when you hoped they would finally understand have all begun resurfacing with remarkable clarity. It feels almost as though every memory has been rearranged, allowing them to see details they somehow overlooked before. They never imagined that a single conversation, a simple observation, or an unexpected remark from someone else could dismantle the story they had spent so long believing. Yet that is exactly what happened. Without intending to, someone held up a mirror that reflected the truth they had spent so much energy avoiding. Suddenly, they were no longer defending their old beliefs. Instead, they were questioning them. That change has been both frightening and deeply humbling, because admitting they misunderstood you means admitting they may have caused pain they never fully recognized. As the days pass, your soulmate finds themselves replaying moments they once dismissed as ordinary. Conversations they barely remembered now return with surprising detail. They remember the expression on your face when you tried to explain your feelings. They remember the pauses between your words, the moments when you searched for understanding instead of conflict. At the time, they interpreted those moments through the lens of their own fears, assumptions, and emotional walls. They believed they already understood the situation, so they never stopped long enough to consider that your perspective might have carried a truth they were unable to see. Now, however, everything feels different. Every memory carries a new meaning. Every silence feels heavier. Every forgotten moment now seems connected to a larger picture that has only recently become visible. The realization has not brought them peace. Instead, it has awakened a regret that grows stronger each day, because they cannot stop asking themselves how differently everything might have unfolded if they had simply listened with an open heart instead of a guarded mind. What surprises them most is that this regret did not arrive all at once. It came quietly, almost unnoticed, growing stronger with every passing day. At first, they only questioned one small misunderstanding. Then another memory surfaced. Then another. Before long, they realized there was a pattern they could no longer ignore. Every time they looked back, they discovered another moment where you had been honest while they remained doubtful. Another opportunity where you reached out while they pulled away. Another chance where understanding was possible, yet fear quietly stood in the way. They are beginning to understand that the greatest misunderstandings are rarely created by a lack of love. More often, they are created by unspoken fears, wounded pride, and assumptions that are accepted before the truth is ever given a chance to be heard. Your soulmate has started recognizing those patterns within themselves, and that awareness has become impossible to silence, because your heart needs to hear this. Understand that they are no longer searching for someone else to blame. In the past, it felt easier to believe circumstances were responsible, that timing was wrong, or that life simply moved in different directions. Those explanations once gave them comfort because they protected them from looking inward. But now those same explanations feel empty. They no longer answer the questions that keep them awake at night. Deep inside, they know this journey has become personal. It is no longer about proving who was right or wrong. It is about confronting the truth they avoided for far too long. That truth has become a constant companion, following them through quiet evenings, ordinary afternoons, and restless nights. No distraction lasts for long, because every road eventually leads back to the same realization: you were trying to be understood, not admired. You were trying to be heard, not praised. You were offering honesty, and they mistook it for something else entirely. And listen carefully, because another shift is quietly taking place within them. The more they accept this truth, the less comfortable they become with pretending everything is fine. They have started noticing an emptiness they cannot explain, a feeling that something meaningful was left unfinished. It follows them into moments when they least expect it, reminding them that some connections leave a lasting imprint even after silence has settled between two people. They are beginning to understand that regret is not simply about wishing the past had been different. Regret is the painful awareness that a beautiful opportunity existed, but they were unable to recognize its value until someone unexpectedly confirmed what had been true all along. That understanding has humbled them in ways they never imagined, and for the first time in a very long while, they are no longer asking whether your words held truth. They already know they did. Now they are facing a far more difficult question. What should they do with that truth, now that their heart can no longer deny it? That question has become impossible to escape, and the answer they are slowly discovering is preparing them for a decision that could change everything they once believed about this connection. And listen to this, because the confirmation your soulmate received did more than answer a lingering question. It completely changed the way they see your silence. For the longest time, they believed your quietness meant you had stopped caring, that your distance meant you had accepted the situation and moved on without looking back. That assumption became part of the story they told themselves, because it protected them from asking harder questions. It was easier to believe that silence meant indifference than to consider that silence might have been the result of carrying too much disappointment. But now, after everything they have recently come to understand, they are seeing those quiet moments through an entirely different lens. They are beginning to realize that your silence was never empty. It was filled with words you had already spoken too many times. It was filled with explanations that never seemed to reach them. It was filled with hope that slowly became exhaustion after trying again and again to make your heart understood. This realization has unsettled them because they now recognize that while they were waiting for you to prove yourself, you had already been doing exactly that all along. The more they reflect, the more clearly they remember moments they barely noticed before. They remember conversations where your voice remained calm even when your heart was hurting. They remember times when you chose patience over arguments, understanding over pride, and honesty over games. Back then, they misunderstood your gentleness. They assumed that because you were not demanding attention, your feelings were not as deep as they truly were. Now they understand something they wish they had realized much sooner. Not every sincere heart fights loudly to be heard. Sometimes the deepest love speaks softly, hoping that genuine understanding will arrive without force. Your soulmate now sees that you were never asking for perfection. You were asking to be believed. You were asking for trust. You were asking them to look beyond fear and assumptions long enough to see the truth standing quietly in front of them. That understanding has left them carrying a weight they never expected, because they realize they may have mistaken your strength for weakness and your patience for a lack of emotion. Because your heart needs this right now, know that someone else's perspective became the turning point they never saw coming. Without intending to, that person described your situation in a way that removed every excuse your soulmate had been hiding behind. Suddenly, they found themselves hearing your story from outside their own emotions. There was no defensiveness left, no need to justify old decisions, no reason to cling to past assumptions. For the first time, they simply listened, and in that quiet moment, something inside them shifted. They recognized pieces of your heart they had overlooked. They understood emotions they once dismissed. They realized that the pain you carried was never an attempt to make them feel guilty. It was the natural result of loving someone who could not yet see what was standing before them. That realization has remained with them ever since, following them through every quiet hour and every thoughtful moment, reminding them that truth often arrives from the most unexpected voices when our own heart is finally ready to hear it. As this emotional awakening continues, your soulmate has begun questioning many of the beliefs they once held with complete confidence. They wonder how many decisions were shaped by fear instead of wisdom. They wonder how many opportunities quietly slipped away while they were waiting for certainty that never came. More than anything, they wonder how different this journey might have been if they had trusted your honesty instead of their doubts. These questions have become impossible to ignore because each answer leads them back to the same painful conclusion. You were never trying to convince them to choose you through pressure or manipulation. You simply wanted them to understand what your heart had been trying to express from the beginning. The realization has filled them with humility because they now recognize that the truth was never hidden from them. It was present in your actions, your consistency, your patience, and your willingness to remain genuine even when you felt misunderstood. They simply were not ready to recognize it. Now, something remarkable is happening inside your soulmate. The regret they first experienced is slowly transforming into something much deeper. It is becoming accountability. Instead of asking why everything happened the way it did, they are beginning to ask what they can learn from it. Instead of searching for reasons to protect themselves, they are searching for the courage to face their own heart honestly. This is not an easy journey because true self-awareness rarely is. Every new realization asks them to let go of another false belief they once depended on. Every honest reflection removes another layer of pride that once kept them emotionally distant. Yet with each layer that falls away, they feel themselves becoming more authentic than they have been in years. They are beginning to understand that admitting they were wrong does not make them weak. It makes them free, and that freedom is quietly leading them toward a decision they once believed they would never have to face. The truth they resisted for so long is no longer something they can explain away. It has become part of who they are now, and with every passing day, they feel an undeniable pull to stop living according to yesterday's misunderstandings and start responding to the truth that has finally reached their heart. And listen carefully, because your soulmate has now reached a place they never imagined they would stand. The regret that first entered their heart as a quiet whisper has grown into something impossible to ignore. It no longer visits them only during lonely nights or moments of reflection. It follows them through ordinary days, unexpected conversations, and even the smallest reminders that seem to appear without warning. Every new realization strengthens the same truth they have been trying to avoid. They cannot pretend they never misunderstood you. They cannot convince themselves that your words were meaningless. The confirmation they received has removed every comfortable excuse they once relied upon, and now they are left alone with a question that demands an honest answer. If everything you tried to explain was true, what should they do now? That question has become the center of their thoughts, because deep inside they know that understanding the truth creates responsibility. Once the heart truly sees something, it cannot simply choose to become blind again. For days, they have found themselves imagining different paths ahead. One path looks familiar because it asks nothing of them. It invites them to remain silent, to continue living as though nothing has changed, to bury these emotions beneath routines and distractions until time slowly carries them away. At first, that path seemed easier. It required no vulnerability, no difficult conversations, and no uncomfortable admissions. Yet every time they picture themselves following that road, something inside refuses to settle. There is no peace waiting there, only the quiet ache of unfinished emotions and unanswered questions. They have begun realizing that silence may delay discomfort, but it cannot create healing. The longer they imagine continuing without facing the truth, the heavier their heart becomes. It feels as though life itself keeps gently reminding them that some opportunities are too meaningful to leave unfinished forever. Then another possibility begins appearing in their mind. It is a path filled with uncertainty but also with honesty. It asks them to stop defending old misunderstandings and begin accepting what they now know to be real. That possibility frightens them because honesty always carries risk. There are no guarantees waiting on the other side of vulnerability. They cannot predict how everything will unfold. They cannot erase the past or undo moments that have already passed. Yet despite all those uncertainties, this second path brings something the first one never could. It brings hope, not the kind of hope built on fantasy, but the quiet hope that comes from finally choosing truth over fear. They are beginning to understand that while honesty may not guarantee the outcome they desire, refusing honesty guarantees that nothing will ever change. That realization has become impossible to ignore because it has shifted the way they see every decision standing before them. Because your heart needs this right now, know that your soulmate has also started looking inward instead of outward. They are no longer asking why life unfolded the way it did. Instead, they are asking who they have become because of everything that happened. They recognize that this journey has exposed parts of themselves they never intended to confront. It has revealed fears they hid behind, pride they refused to acknowledge, and insecurities that quietly influenced many of their choices. At first, those discoveries were difficult to accept. No one enjoys realizing they may have misunderstood someone who only wanted to be honest. Yet the more they accept these truths, the lighter they begin to feel. They are discovering that accountability is not punishment. It is freedom. Every honest realization removes another burden they have carried without realizing it. Every admission brings them one step closer to becoming the person they wish they had been from the very beginning. Something else has quietly changed as well. They no longer measure this connection by old misunderstandings or painful memories alone. Instead, they have begun recognizing its lasting impact on their life. They see how this experience challenged them to grow beyond their comfort zone. They see how your patience taught lessons they failed to appreciate at the time. They see how your honesty remained consistent, even when circumstances became complicated. Those realizations have replaced much of the certainty they once carried with humility. They understand now that true connections are rarely built upon perfect moments. They are built upon truth, trust, and the courage to remain genuine even when it feels difficult. The more they reflect on this, the more they recognize that you never stopped being authentic. It was their own perspective that prevented them from seeing your heart clearly. And listen to this, because the greatest transformation is happening quietly inside them. The fear that once controlled every important decision is slowly losing its influence. They still feel uncertainty. They still wonder what tomorrow may bring. But those questions no longer have the same power over their heart. Something stronger has taken their place. The desire to live honestly has become greater than the desire to remain comfortable. The need to face the truth has become stronger than the urge to continue hiding from it. Every passing day brings them closer to a decision that once felt impossible, not because someone is forcing them toward it, but because their own heart refuses to remain divided any longer. They understand now that regret is not meant to imprison a person forever. Sometimes regret arrives to awaken wisdom, to restore clarity, and to lead someone back toward the truth they should have embraced from the very beginning. Your soulmate feels that awakening taking place within them, and for the first time in a very long while, they are no longer asking whether they should continue pretending everything is the same. They already know it is not. The only thing left is finding the courage to act on the truth that has completely transformed the way they see you, the way they see themselves, and the future that still quietly waits before them. And listen carefully, because after everything your soulmate has recently discovered, they have reached a place where running from the truth no longer feels possible. For so long, they believed that time would eventually quiet their thoughts, soften their memories, and erase the questions that continued returning to their heart. They convinced themselves that enough distance would make everything easier to understand, that one day they would wake up and no longer wonder if they had made the right choices. But instead of fading, those questions only became stronger. Every unexpected confirmation, every memory that resurfaced, and every quiet moment of reflection continued pointing toward the same undeniable truth. They can no longer pretend they misunderstood you, because they finally see what was standing before them all along. The person they once questioned was never asking for blind trust or impossible promises. You were simply asking them to see your heart for what it truly was. Now they understand that request was never unreasonable. It was honest. It was sincere. And realizing that has changed something deep inside them that cannot be reversed. The regret they carry today is different from ordinary regret. It is not simply wishing they had spoken different words or made different decisions. It is the realization that they allowed fear to speak louder than understanding. They allowed assumptions to become stronger than communication. They gave uncertainty the power to shape choices that should have been guided by honesty instead. As painful as that realization has been, it has also become the beginning of their greatest emotional transformation. They are no longer looking for someone else to explain what happened, because they already know the answer lives within their own heart. Every time they revisit the past, they no longer see a story filled with confusion alone. They see moments where truth quietly waited to be recognized. They see opportunities where trust could have replaced doubt. Most of all, they see someone who remained genuine even when they themselves struggled to understand what was being offered. That awareness has humbled them more than they ever expected, because they now realize that genuine people are rare, and genuine connections are even rarer. Because your heart needs this right now, know that your soulmate is beginning to understand something that many people never fully learn. The greatest loss is not always losing a person. Sometimes the greatest loss is failing to recognize someone's value while they are standing right in front of you. That lesson has become impossible for them to ignore. It follows them through ordinary moments, reminding them that some people enter our lives not simply to create memories, but to reveal parts of ourselves we never knew existed. Your presence did exactly that. Whether they admitted it before or not, you challenged them to grow beyond old fears, old habits, and old beliefs that no longer served them. At the time, they resisted that growth because it felt uncomfortable. Now they understand that discomfort was never the enemy. It was the doorway leading them toward emotional maturity. Looking back, they can finally see that every difficult moment carried a lesson they were not yet prepared to receive. Today, those lessons have become the foundation of a new understanding they can no longer deny. There is another truth quietly unfolding within them as well. They have stopped searching for certainty before taking action. In the past, they believed they needed every answer before making an important decision. They wanted guarantees that nothing would go wrong, that they would never experience disappointment, and that every risk would end exactly as they hoped. But life has taught them something different. They now understand that certainty rarely arrives before courage. Instead, courage creates the path that certainty eventually follows. This realization has become one of the most meaningful changes within their heart, because they are finally recognizing that waiting forever only creates deeper regret. They no longer want to spend their future wondering what might have happened if they had simply trusted the truth when it finally revealed itself. The confirmation they received has become more than just proof that you were right. It has become a mirror reflecting the person they are capable of becoming if they choose honesty over fear. Every day they feel that version of themselves growing stronger, encouraging them to stop living according to yesterday's misunderstandings and begin embracing tomorrow with greater wisdom. And listen to this, because the chapter they are entering is unlike any chapter that came before. They are no longer motivated by pride, by appearances, or by the need to protect an image they carefully built over time. Those things have slowly lost their importance. What matters now is living in a way that feels true to their heart. They have discovered that peace is not found by pretending mistakes never happened. Peace is found by accepting the lessons those mistakes were sent to teach. That is exactly where your soulmate stands today. The regret they carry has not broken them. It has awakened them. It has shown them that honesty is stronger than fear, that understanding is more valuable than assumptions, and that real connections deserve to be recognized before time quietly slips away. They cannot change yesterday, but they can decide who they become because of it. That decision is already beginning to reshape the future waiting before them. And before this message reaches its end, there is one final truth that continues echoing inside their heart. Someone unexpectedly confirmed everything you tried so hard to explain, but the greatest confirmation did not come from another person's words. It came from the quiet voice within their own soul that finally stopped resisting what it had known for much longer than they were willing to admit. That voice has become impossible to silence. It reminds them every single day that some truths arrive late, but when they finally reach the heart, they have the power to change everything forever.